Welcome to iBelieve TV, the show that takes the mystery out of the effects and techniques the media and government use to keep you in the dark. My name is Justin Ballot, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about the new Nazis, the United Nations. Now, we all heard about the war in Libya, and basically the United Nations, this is now for the first time ever, they ordered that NATO, namely the United States of America, Canada, France and the UK, invade Libya. It's supposedly a humanitarian mission, but of course soldiers are soldiers. They're not peacekeepers, they're there to kill people. This is a war, it's not a humanitarian mission at all, it's a complete and utter war. There are bombs going off, and for those of you that can remember, way back when the United Nations was first established, they were supposed to be an organization that was going to prevent war. Now you've got the United Nations dictating to countries, you will go and fight when we tell you. So we've entered into a new Nazi time. This is Germany 1939, except instead of having Adolf Hitler and the Nazis, we now have the United Nations, the new Nazis. And you've got to start understanding what's going on. In South Africa, just the other day, there was this news item that came out. It was very interesting because I thought it seemed out of place. And whenever something seems out of place, it means something else is going on. On the news, they claimed that the Defence Force is the people that are in charge. The Minister of the Defence Force doesn't want there to be trade unions, and all of a sudden they made all these new regulations and rules and paperwork, and you had to submit all these rules and regulations within such a short period of time, otherwise there's no more trade union. Now they've gone to the point where they've said that they will actually change the constitution. Now that's called treason. You can't just change the constitution willy-nilly. They decide. They've said that the military of South Africa cannot have a trade union. They don't want them to have a trade union. The reason why is because trade unions are representatives. They are an outside representative. They are a way for soldiers to be able to protect themselves. During the Nuremberg trials after World War II, the situation came up where the soldiers said that they had to follow the orders of the Nazis, because if they didn't, they were sent to the death camps. But the Nuremberg trial said that you're not allowed to follow an illegal law, and that was why we have human rights laws and the right to belong to trade unions today. Because the problem is, when the people in charge give out an order, if it's an illegal order, if it's an unconstitutional order, if it's an order that violates human rights, the military are supposed to have the ability to refuse that order. They're supposed to be able to say no. And the situation that we're going to have now is, if there's no trade union for the military, it means that the military are going to be controlled within the military. In other words, the directors, the people who are in charge of the departments of the military will give an order, and the army, the military, the air force, our navy will just have to follow that order blindly. It doesn't matter what the order is. There's no way in which they can now protect themselves. And of course, this is the exact same thing that Adolf Hitler did. He made sure that there was no way that his army could ever refuse an order. So we're going back into 1939, we're going back into Nazi Germany. But why are they doing this now? Have you been thinking about this? Because the media, they treat you as if you're mushrooms. They keep you in the dark and they feed you a whole lot of shit, because that's what you are to them. You're nothing. So they're not going to tell you the truth as to what's really going on. You got to understand that this war in Libya that's been dictated by the United Nations, they dictated that NATO go in. America, Canada, France and the UK are busy fighting a war that the United Nations has dictated. The people did not ask for the war. The United Nations dictated the war. Now, they've come out, NATO, and said they can't continue this war. They want somebody else to take over. Of course, the United Nations also said that Africa is to take care of Africa. And we have this wonderful thing called the African Union. Who do you think is going to take over the war if Africa must look after Africa? In other words, NATO was ordered in to start the war, and now they want to pass on. So somebody else must go and fight this war. Well, it's pretty obvious. Which country bought a whole bunch of weaponry? South Africa. So which country is going to go and fight this war after NATO pulls out? South Africa. We're going to. Now, the South African National Defence Force, national is the operative word, are supposed to be there to protect us, the South African people. They are not there to be the new Blitzkrieg of the United Nations or the AU when they decide they want to invade a country, that we must now send our men and women to go and die for the beliefs of the United Nations, the new Nazis. That's not how it works. They are our national defense force to protect us, the people of South Africa, and to uphold the Constitution, to make sure that the Constitution is being upheld. So we're coming up to a situation now where if the trade unions for the military fall away, what you're going to see is either one of two things happening. Either we're going to have a coup. The military, not the top guys, because they all in the pockets, they're all controlled, but a little bit further down in the ranks, they might call a coup, and they're going to go and arrest all those people at the top of the army, and they're going to go and arrest our government because they know what's coming. They're going to be sent to their death sentence because the United Nations wants to take over Libya. If that happens, if we go into a situation where we have a coup, straight away South Africa will be declared a rogue nation and we'll be put on the hit list, just like Libya, just like all the others. And you can go and read about the countries that are on the hit list. The New American Century, it was a document that was released where they actually outlined which countries that they were going to invade. America was going to invade. They've listed the exact countries. Libya was one of them, Syria, Iran, Iraq, all these different countries that they're busy taking out at the moment were all listed a long, long time ago. You see, everything is planned, and the same thing is happening now in South Africa. It's all been planned. That's why we bought the weapons. Why do we need weapons if we're not in a war? This was planned long ago. This didn't just happen yesterday, the day before yesterday. Oh, Libya's bad, now we must invade them. They've planned the whole thing. So South Africa is to take over the war, and we are going to go in there and fight this war for them. I don't know about you, but our National Defence Force is not to be used for that. And this is what the actual fight is about. It's not about trade unions. It's about whether or not South Africa must go and fight. And if we lose, if the government of South Africa successfully destroys the trade unions, they are going to order the troops of South Africa to go and fight. And we know what happened with the apartheid government. It didn't take long for the apartheid government to make the National Defence Force compulsory. And you've noticed that it's almost been 20 years since the ANC took over. So they've got a fully indoctrinated, brand new set of 20-year-olds that are about to come out. And they are going to be sent to war. We are going to be sent to war, and they're going to be compulsory drafts into the army. They're going to have to fight, and they are just going to be sent. Your children, your friends, even you, yourself, you're all going to have to do compulsory military service once again. You're going to be sent to wherever the United Nations dictates. So we've got a choice to make. It's either we go to a coup, or the military's got a choice to make. Either they're going to a coup, where they're going to say, sorry, we actually stand up for the people of South Africa. We are the National Defence Force of South Africa. We stand up for the people of South Africa, and we stand up for the Constitution of South Africa. Or it's going to be the United Nations can just dictate whichever country they decide they want to invade. And we are going to have to supply the ammunition and the troops to go in and fight these wars. And that means you're going to get shot. You're going to be dying. You're the ones. We're going into a wartime scenario. And in all wartime scenarios, they cut back on everything. They cut back on the food. They cut back on the services. They cut back on electricity. They cut back on everything to fund the war effort. And that's where we're going. And that's why the Department of Defense is getting such huge budgets nowadays. They're getting bigger and bigger budgets. They're getting more and more weaponry. And they're trying to take away the right for the military to have a trade union. Because if a military person refuses the order, they will be tried in an internal military court, not externally. The public won't know anything about what's going on. And they will be tried for refusing a legitimate order, even if that order is in violation of the Constitution of South Africa and in violation of human rights. We're going back to being Nazis. And the new Nazis, which are the United Nations, it's the new Nazi party. It's just that it's an international version of Nazism. That's the only difference. They are going to be the ones in charge, and they are going to be the ones who can dictate to South Africa. So you must understand that we are staring treason in the face as we speak. Our treasonous government is trying to make an order to take away our constitution, to prevent the protection of South Africa, to prevent the protection of the people, while upholding the dictates of the United Nations.